Welcome to this episode of Our College Your Voices. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. Today's episode is an extension of the conversation that was started during the IvyOnline Faculty2Faculty LearnAnywhere panel discussion. The college implemented the LearnAnywhere or HighFlex instructional modality during the fall of 2020 in an effort to offer students increased participatory flexibility in their Ivy Tech courses. Today's panelists will offer insights into how and why they are using this modality, successes and challenges they've encountered, and how the college is supporting faculty and students. So let's meet our panel. Justin Dammeier. Hi, Justin.
Hi, Kara. How are you?
I'm good. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for Ivy Tech?
Sure. I am the Executive Director, Educational Technology, as a part of IvyOnline and Systems Office, and my responsibility is to lead our team of educational technology coordinators and their staffs at each of our 18 campuses.
Wonderful. Welcome. And next up is Whitney Walker. Hi, Whitney.
Hello, Kara. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing well. Good afternoon, fellow colleagues. My name is Whitney Walker, and I am the Assistant Professor of Accounting at the Ivy Tech Madison Campus. I have been teaching LA courses for the past 3 semesters, and I'm happy to join each of you today to further discuss my experiences with the LearnAnywhere modality.
Wonderful. Welcome, Whitney. And Eurika Bennett. Hi, Eurika.
Hi, Kara. How are you?
I'm good. And if your official name is Eurika Bennett, but I've always called you Eurika. Is that okay today?
Yes.
Good. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do at Ivy Tech.
I am the Educational Technology Coordinator for the Richmond Campus, and I have been with Ivy Tech for 10 years as a coordinator and adjunct faculty. I taught my first LearnAnywhere course last fall.
Excellent. All right. So we're going to dive into the conversation. And actually, the panel asked me to answer the first question. So I'm going to ask and answer, and then I hope you all will add in as well. So that first answer is, what is LearnAnywhere and what are the goals for its use across the college? LearnAnywhere actually grew out of an idea that we had while we were working on some of the work for the Single Moms Design Project. And it is a modality that allows the student to choose from week to week how they attend class. They can attend face-to-face, they can attend virtually during that synchronous session, or they can attend what we would think of as sort of the online asynchronous by watching the virtual session and completing their assignments. Our goal for its use is really to explore it at this point and to offer students the opportunity where it makes sense for us and for the learning goals of a course to offer students that flexibility and that opportunity to be engaged and to have that opportunity to choose from week to week. It's certainly not appropriate to every single course at Ivy Tech, and we know that from the outset, but we do believe there are a lot of opportunities to explore this model and to think about it as we look at it. So what differentiates LearnAnywhere from blended virtual and online courses?
The goal is ultimately giving the flexibility to the student. So during this day and age, we have had to adapt due to the pandemic. So it offers the student flexibility in making the decision to join in person via live webcast technology, normally via Zoom, or allows the student to watch Zoom recordings. It also allows the student to take some of the responsibility in determining what works best for their learning style and academic needs without having to question or badger a student. Where were you? Why were you not in class? With this modality, the flexibility is up to the student completely. And as you said, it is based on week to week. If a student gets a new job this week, well, next week, they may not be able to attend from 9 to 11:50 a.m. So based on the needs and lifestyle of the student, we offer them ultimately flexibility in successfully completing courses.
What does this modality mean to you, and why are you passionate or excited about this for your courses or your program or your campus?
I'm excited about it because it gives the student a chance to choose whether they're going to be on campus or if they need to do this online.
So tell me a little bit about the conversations that took place leading up to you taking a teaching assignment in this modality, because it's a lot of work. Like any new thing, it's a lot of work to take on an assignment in a new modality.
On our campus, Kara, we actually were really set up for success at the Madison campus. So our IT actually had what I would call a playground workshop. So we went into a classroom that had the technology needed, and that included a TV, pretty widescreen TV on the back wall. We have a normal whiteboard, but we also have a projector. Finally, there's also a speaker that is a two-way speaker for your students who join virtually so that students can interact, and as well as the instructor and students. So being so that I have avidly used Zoom and I'm pretty tech savvy, I jumped on this method because in the accounting field, there is many times that we are on the computer all day, and sometimes being online is easier for us and more convenient. So this actually works pretty well in the accounting field, especially because we use mostly third-party tests and quizzes. So this worked out really great for us, but we hit the ground running before we were able to offer the course. Our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Amanda, she actually set us up to do this before we could even offer the courses. So when we first started, we had an IT person always available to us from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. or whenever courses end. So we started early, we prepared, we got used to our technology, and we actually took turns quizzing each other. Now, show me how you do this in Zoom. How do you do side by side? How do you get the students that are joining via Zoom to be back on that back TV screen so they can see the whole front of the class and the rest of the students? So I know that student interaction is something we worry about sometimes, but it can really be done if you are set up with your equipment successfully.
I love that. I love that you all engage with each other too to help work through that with each other. Rika, as an adjunct, I'd love to know what conversations went in for you as well.
So we didn't have it as well as Whitney campus had it. We pretty much had the two monitors with the webcam. So it was kind of we were okay with using, the two monitors with Zoom and the webcam, but we had a barrier with students being able to see the class, the online students or virtual students being able to see. It worked well, but would have loved to have the setup that Whitney had starting out, but we were able to get through it.
What advice would you have for any instructor that might help them prepare for this teaching modality?
I think I can start with that. I think from a technology standpoint, and I will candidly say I have not taught in this modality. I've done a little bit of work from one of the rooms that we've scoped out with this in terms of thinking through how we might train faculty for this, and just my own past experiences as a teacher, and then working with that setup. In order to prepare, I have to get out of my head and just remember that it's just Zoom, right? At the end of the day, that's what I'm doing with my students. So being able to have that in my head and then think about, how am I going to accomplish my course goals? Understanding that, I might have students who are only watching the recording. I might have students who are there with me in the classroom. I might have students who are, watching with me live at the same time, but they're not on campus with me. So I think really focusing that attention on what types of assignments and activities am I going to be able to do to meet all of those needs, I think from my perspective as somebody who might have to train on this, might be more important initially than even the technology that's in the classroom, because at the end of the day, it's Zoom, right? So I really have to think about how I'm going to use that tool to effectively deliver that content, and then take all of those different aspects into consideration as I start to design that course, and really not focus so much on the fact that there are technology obstacles that may present themselves, but keep my eyes on the content, on the students, their experience, and how they're going to view that course.
I can add on to that a little bit, Justin. Coming from a faculty perspective, one thing I will say is that you need to set up a class meeting before the course during the first week. That is the most important. Something that I felt was very beneficial for me was I came in and I categorized each student based on if they were going to be in person, joining via livecast, Zoom, or watching the Zoom recordings, or if it would change. So on that first day, the communication, I put the responsibility on them. What will you be doing? when will I know if you will be changing that method of joining? Because I'm still here to give them their flexibility and let them choose what works best for them. But I make it upfront and known that communication is still key in the course. If you think I'm getting a little bit behind, I was joining all online or watching just the Zoom videos, I want to come in person, well, I'm here for you. I'm willing to help you. We can also set up tutoring. So that's something that I do right off the bat, categorize those students so you know what learning style is best fitting their needs. Another thing I would say is what's very important is them also knowing the technology. Still to this day, Zoom is not known for all students. I think a Zoom course should be in our future offerings, because one thing that I make them all do is I either make us get in an assignment together, I make them share their screen with me, because even though once you're in it, and they may be watching me, if they have questions or if we're going over a group assignment together and they're like, I don't know where I'm off, well, I'll be like, share my screen. Let's all talk out why you couldn't get through this problem. So being prepared with your technology, but also making sure that your students know it. I know there was some pushback on we shouldn't also be teaching our students everything about Zoom, but to be able to use Zoom or live webcast and make it quality, then we all have to know the technology.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, right? That you do that you set those classroom norms, as we all would in any modality in which we teach, right? What are those expectations? What is our community going to have to say to each other, and how are we going to conduct this course? And establishing that communication right off the bat, I think, is terribly helpful. The other thing that was helpful for me in just kind of getting used to the hardware in some of the rooms that I've been in was being in the shoes of the learner, right? So I think if I had to give any advice to faculty as they step into this, is practice ahead of time. But not only practice from your view as the instructor, but team up with somebody, right? Another faculty member at your campus who might be doing this, and figure out what it's like to be the learner in this situation. Because that really struck me as I was looking at the room that Rika may end up ultimately teaching out of at some point. When I was seeing that room from the perspective of the learner, it changed my viewpoint of what I might have to do as I begin to instruct. And so I think that lens is terribly important. And I think all of our faculty members do such a great job of taking their students into consideration, but it's hard to take students into consideration if you don't experience this modality for yourself a little bit. And so from my perspective, I would probably give that as something that they should do prior to stepping foot into a LearnAnywhere experience.
You know, Whitney, I really love that idea, or that what you said about coding your students at the beginning to know that, because one of the questions I always get asked is, well, do I have to be on campus as the instructor every week? You know, and I think if you have a regular routine of asking your students, you know, each week, how do you plan? And, you know, my expectation is if you're going to be changing your plan, that you tell me 24 hours in advance, then if everybody's going to be virtual, it would be okay for you to be virtual that week. You know, I think those are the kinds of things that in LearnAnywhere, it does allow that flexibility, but we have to make sure we put the students' needs first whenever we possibly can.
I always find in my first week that I do teach in the classroom, even if students don't join. So I've actually had a lot of luck and had to teach on campus, but I do have an accounting 102 class for managerial who had 7 students, but quickly fell to 4 right when registration ended. So while I was on campus for the first 2 weeks teaching in the classroom, and I had 1 or 2 students come, those students ended up telling me that they would like to join via Zoom or watching the Zoom recordings. So now I come to the campus once a week and teach it once a week, but then I am virtual on the other day because only half of the contact hours have to be live. So, you know, if 3 students out of 4 tell you they can't be there, I think LearnAnywhere really does set you up to just follow right in virtually. Yep. So I know it's a similar method, right? But you can set yourself up to success. And like you said, based on that communication that we've already obligated the student to communicate with us ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was kind of the same thing that I found as well. All the students showed up on day 1, but at that point, they had settled into what was going to work best for them. And we just set up a way to let me know if they would be in class or how they would attend, actually. But I think they were looking to keep some structure for them, as well as me. So it worked out well in that there was nothing that came up that they had to veer from what they agreed upon. But I just thought, it was enlightening that they wanted that structure of I need it virtually and I need it face-to-face. I had one student that showed up face-to-face the whole time.
So we've talked about these next two questions quite a bit, but I want to give you an opportunity to just talk a little bit more in depth about them. So what worked well for you and your students as you experienced this modality, either for the first time or just in general?
First time for me, because it was the first time that the college was offering this modality. Just talking with the students and letting them know that it was a learning process for me as well as them and other faculty, asking for patience as we went through it, but also asking them to help in their learning experience, even with watching the Zoom chat for questions or things that came up. So that was a learning experience really for me as well.
I love that as a tip just for virtual classes too, to engage the students in that action of watching the chat for questions. I think that's great.
One thing that worked well for me is by reaching out to the students the weekend before, I was able to send them our first meeting with Zoom, but I also was able to explain what LearnAnywhere was. So I took the definition and I made it my own, of course, and I explained to them what it was and what was expected to begin with, but also that I would be posting weekly announcements. So of course, all students will be categorized into different learning styles based on what needs their needs. But no matter what, every week, Monday morning or by 11 a.m. normally, I post a weekly announcement, and it's a table set up with all the assignments that are due, what day they're due on, and how many points there are. So I also post the Zoom link in, so when we are live, that they can just access right in the announcements. I tell them that it's also in the syllabus, and I also share that where they can find their Zoom recordings with snapshots, because even though sometimes the instructions are easy, sometimes you need a snapshot version of what you're actually doing. And since not all of our students know Zoom, this is the best way to get them acquainted fastly, especially if maybe they weren't as prepared for the first day this semester as they were last semester.
So what were some challenges you encountered and how did you overcome them?
My challenges that I encountered was with technology, with Zoom, believe it or not, with recordings not coming through clear. So what I did when that would happen, I would come through sounding like a mouse or mousy, just record what was for that class day, that module for that day. So while the students in class and virtually could hear me well, for that one online student I was able to just go back and make that recording, and then everybody was able to at least have something to review from.
I shared this a little bit earlier, but one challenge was that one of my courses did not have the amount of students that it was normally holding. I can normally see anywhere from 10 to 20, and that is, 12 to 14 to 15 is very normal. Sometimes 10 is normal, but when I had 7 and it dropped to 4, it was a challenge to wait and see what these students were going to do, because sometimes with 4 students, even being live, if we go over an assignment together, I feel like I am picking on them to get them to talk. I'm like, hey, I have to call them by name, and make them be engaged. But that was one challenge. I figured, not every student may not come if you continue to engage them by their name or ask them too many questions. So one way I overcame this, like I said, I quickly turned this into an adaptable course. So it is half LearnAnywhere, but it's kind of half virtual as well. So as I stated, if I have 3 students who can't be live, I know that I can post a Zoom recording for one of the courses. And I tell them that their attendance for me that day is watching the Zoom recording and listening to my homework assignment notes and actually completing the homework assignment. So another way to get around that is making them actually complete an assignment. So that is one way that I overcame that challenge of actually adapting a course to be half virtual and half LearnAnywhere.
That's a great answer to transition to the next question I want to ask, which is, as we think about our student success commitments, one of our commitments for students is that they attend class. So Whitney, you talked a little bit about what that means for you, that it's actually completing the homework. And I think that's a cool way to define it. What else do you think we need to think about, or faculty need to think about, as they're defining what does it mean to attend a class each week in LearnAnywhere?
Due to the recent COVID pandemic, of course, we've been forced to adapt. So I don't believe attending means what it used to be before this has happened. And faculty must adapt to the changing and evolving environment in academia. It's not just Ivy Tech changing and adapting, right? It's colleges across the nation, across the globe. So while I agree we should always encourage students to attend, I don't think that always means in person or via live webcast. As I stated, lifestyles and changes happen. We don't have all traditional students. We have more non-traditional students in some cases. So I think it's really important that we consider that to be completing an assignment or being engaged in the lecture, or if we're going over. Sometimes I make every student in my class get in a homework assignment that is actually due, and I make them lead and work through it while I am there. So there's still a way to do group activities, but encouraging students to attend doesn't always have to be in person or live webcast. It can also mean watching the Zoom recordings, completing an assignment. So I think we have to adapt to what we mean in that student commitment, because here at this time, we know we have to be a little bit more flexible still with students. And since the environment has changed, students are getting used to this norm. And I know we talked about the statistics of students really wanting to increase their online learning. So we are going in a different direction, that we also want to be able to offer that to students, or they will find elsewhere online learning if that's what best fits their learning lifestyle.
So as we close today, my last question is just about sort of the technology and what's going to be available to instructors. So we've heard that it's really important to have good technology to make this a successful and quality course. What's the college doing to ensure instructors and students have what they need to be successful?
I'm actually excited about what we're planning to be able to do for this. We're really examining the ways that we can find campus leaders that are really good. They're really passionate about LearnAnywhere. They've gotten some experience with LearnAnywhere, and they can share those experiences with faculty. And we can pair those individuals with our ed tech coordinators on each of our campuses, like Rika, and provide them some really good training, both from the technological standpoint as well as a pedagogical standpoint. So we've got experts who have done this. They do it well. They know what their students need. They know how to design activities around that. And then we pair them with educational technologists who understand the technology and how to be able to deliver that for quality experiences with our students. And so that's really the charge of what we're doing. And that's just one prong of it. The second leg of that is that we have to have really good technology in the classroom that gives us some type of consistency in what we're doing, so that we can train consistently, that the student experience is consistent, and that the faculty experience is consistent. So that's the big initiative that the college is undergoing, is to really define what those technological considerations need to be in a classroom. Like, what are those pieces of technology that are going to allow me to do this really well? And then also make sure that they're reliable, right? That they are easy to use, that there's not a lot of afterthought. I always talk about technology being in the background. I don't want our faculty to have to think about the technology. I want them to think about their students and their content. And if we achieve that goal, I think we're going to be in really good shape. And to that end, we've developed some standards across the college that the IT directors are going to be able to use to be able to purchase equipment. Our ed tech coordinators are going to be able to have those conversations with the campus academic leadership, with the faculty that are teaching in those rooms, and they're going to be able to choose the equipment from that standard list that meets the needs for that classroom. Because let's face it, not every classroom at Ivy Tech is a 20 by 20 box. There's going to be some unique differences that exist in those rooms, and we have to be able to accommodate that. So being able to really think through that in a meaningful way but also be nimble enough that we can get those things installed as we need them. So that's really, from our perspective, what we're trying to do to be able to support this initiative. And then from a training standpoint, I look at that of, well, what can I do to arm our faculty with that understanding of what do I do if something doesn't work? Right? We talk about this a lot as we start to talk about the training. And I look at it like this, like we might walk into a classroom and that camera in the back of the room that is really there to provide those eyes on me as an instructor for my remote learners. What if it's not working? What am I going to do? I'm not going to cancel class because I'm going to have students who are relying on me to be able to deliver that course. So arming them with some thoughts ahead of time, right? So if our classroom has a document camera, well, maybe I just flip the document camera up and I use that, right? So at least I have eyes on me. I can still interact. They can still see me, and we can still get through the class, understanding that sometimes technology is not going to work, and how to tell the difference between what is truly not working and maybe there's just a setting somewhere that I missed, and kind of arming them with that understanding ahead of time.
All right. Well, that is a great place to end up for today. And we always end every episode with a call to action. So we want you to continue the conversation on your campus, within your department, and on the Faculty Helping Faculty Teams channel. And this certainly is not the last time you're going to hear about LearnAnywhere. So keep your ears open for new announcements and opportunities coming soon. Thanks for joining this episode of Our College, Your Voices. I want to thank the members of today's panel: Justin Dammeier, Executive Director, Educational Technology Systems Office; Whitney Walker, Assistant Professor of Accounting, Madison Campus; and Eurika Bennett, Educational Technology Coordinator, Richmond Campus. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. You can connect with me on Twitter at KNM Tweets. Our producer is Sarah Ferguson. You can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. Our website, where you'll find links to our show notes, is ivytech.edu/podcast. Production assistance for this and every episode provided by Becky Campbell and the Ivy Tech Community College Creative Services team. Our podcast concepts by Matthew Pittman. Theme music and post-production services provided by Jen Eads at the Brossie Broadcasting Company. We will talk to you next time on Our College, Your Voices.